Thank you for joining. This is a webinar for new functionality within the provider online portal for South Dakota Medicaid. Today we will be discussing the negative balance report, adjudicated claims requests, and communications for reviews and requests that will replace appeals. As you can see on the first slide, we have added an additional tab for communications, which is where you will find the reviews and requests. The adjudicated claims listing is still in the same location as it has been in the past, where it's only adding new functionality to this report, and the provider negative balance report will be found within the Medicaid tab under reports. How to grant permissions. To grant permissions, if you are a provider admin, you will go to your user maintenance and choose your user and select update. On the second page of the update form, you will choose the appropriate role from the permissions available and select that, then select the right arrow to move it to permissions selected, and then update the user. We will move on to the provider negative balance report. So this will be for users who use the Medicaid remittance advice, and the format of this report is exactly the same as the Medicaid remittance advice. You can view your reports either combined by billing NPI or separated by billing and servicing NPI combinations that you have access to. You will be able to choose the 90-day date span, and you will be able to view this up to 3 years in the past, but only starting this month. You will not be able to view 3 years in the past right away. But going forward, in 3 years, you will be able to view 3 years in the past. The second screen just shows how you choose the separated billing and servicing combinations. We are moving on to the adjudicated claims listing. Again, this is just new functionality that's been added to the current report. So as you can see on this screen, there is a green button that's been added that says New Request. When you want to request a new report that you would not generally get, then you can choose a new request. As you can see on the bottom, once that request has been run, you will see either in process when it's in process, or once it's there, then you'll see it as available, and the type will be ad hoc. That's how you will know that that report was requested by the provider. Once you've selected new request, a pop-up screen will show, and you'll select your billing and servicing NPI combination that you would like to view, and you'll select the report end date by month and year, and then you'll click Submit. The reports will take approximately 10 minutes to be available. We are going to move on to the communications reviews and requests. This will replace appeals. So the current appeals process is to submit on paper. We've tried to streamline that process to make it easier both for the providers and for our agency within DSS. So you will see communications found as a new half moon on the menu. Once you go to that, you will see this blue button at the top left corner that says Add Communications. That will be how you will add a new review or request. The rest of the screen that you see here is how you will be able to search for submitted reviews and requests. So you'll be able to search by dates of service, you'll select your type, your status, anything that you see here you'll be able to search from, and we will go through what all of those mean within this PowerPoint. So once you've selected that you want to add a communication, then you will have to select the type. You can see here that you have 6 different types that you can select from. So you select your type, it will give you a short description of what that type means, and then you will select Submit. The NCCI MUE review is for unresolved NCCI or MUE denials. The sterilization is for unresolved sterilizations denials. Timely filing review is for unresolved timely filing denials where you feel like DSS is in error. Other claim review is for any other claim denial that you feel like DSS is in error and that you should be getting paid for those. These reviews are not when the error is on the provider. These can only be appealed when it is a DSS error. The coverage request is for review of new services, so that could be either diagnosis codes or HCPCS or surgical codes. The fee schedule request is specific to the payment rate of covered services. And we want to note that claim-specific information will not be considered for the request. So if you have a claim that's already been denied, if you put in a request and we review it and approve that request, that will not be retroactive to cover your claim. To submit a review, so all of the reviews have the same format. So once you select, say, the NCCI or MUE review, then this screen will show for you, and you'll enter your from and to date of service from the claim that was submitted, the recipient ID, if you have an internal patient account number that you want to use so that it's easier for your tracking and for your searches later, then you can enter that. You'll enter the last remit date of your last denial, and please keep in mind that appeals are subject to the same timely filing requirements as claims, so all appeals must be submitted within 6 months of the date of service or 3 months of your last denial. You'll enter the most recent claim reference number, and then you'll choose the billing and servicing NPI from the claim. You will then have the ability to add up to 5 attachments. The attachments need to include a new claim and the supporting documentation for why we should review your request. Then you'll enter your comments to include the description of the issue and the rationale for review. At this point, if you've entered some information, but you don't have all of your information ready, you don't have your claim available, but you have everything else ready, you can save it and come back to it later. You can submit it to the state, or if you close it, it would just delete it altogether. To submit a coverage request, it is a little bit different because it's not claim specific. All we ask for is the billing and servicing NPI that you're choosing, and this is so that we know what type of provider is requesting the coverage. And then if it's a CPT, HCPCS, or diagnosis code, you can enter that. Otherwise, whatever you're requesting coverage of, you can put in your comments and attachments. And again, you will need the supporting documentation for the attachment, and you will need the comments to include the description of the issue and the rationale for review. It does say to attach a new claim, but that is inaccurate. We do not need a claim for the coverage request. The definitions of the different statuses. So approved is when DSS has approved your reviewer request submission. At this point, once the status is approved, it is view only. Denied, DSS has denied your review or request submission, and this would be view only. In process, this means that you've saved in your work queue a half, or it could be full, but you haven't submitted it to the state, but you've saved in your work queue either a review or request. And at this point, other users with the same NPI permissions will be able to view your in-process reviews or requests. And if you have modified permissions, they will also be able to edit and submit to DSS or delete. In review, means that it's been sent to DSS, we've opened it, and we're reviewing your submission. At this point, there will be no view option for the provider. New is a submission that's been sent to DSS, but DSS has not started reviewing it. We have not opened it at this point. You and other users with the same NPI permissions can still view and modify at this point because the state has not started the review process, and you can also still delete at this point. Request for info. So if you've submitted a review or request to DSS and we've reviewed it and we think that you have some valid points but we just don't have enough information to approve that, we can send that back to ask for more information. So once we send it back, then it will be in status of request for info. If you have modified permissions, then you can make updates and save it before you send it back to DSS, or you can make updates and then send it back to DSS for another review. At that point, it would be in the resubmitted status. So this means that we've received it, we've reviewed it, we've sent it back to you, you've updated your request, and you've resubmitted it to us for another review. Once it's resubmitted, this is view only. DSS will respond to your reviews within 30 days with approved, denied, or request for info. And your request for coverage, we will respond once per quarter. And again, those are not claim specific. They are only once per quarter, and they will only be proactive. How to respond to requests for info. So when the state does ask for more information, as you can see, the status here is request for info. You would select update. You can respond to the DSS comments and questions with supporting information. If you have not used up all 5 attachments, then you can add another attachment at this point. And you can see here, if you go back and forth, there will be that dialogue there within your submission for you to review. There is also a lock feature, so the portal will only allow one provider account to update a review or request at a time. A lock will be placed on a record when a provider clicks on the update button. So if 2 people who have modified permissions are going in to look at what needs to be done on your side, if one person opens it, then you will see that red lock symbol show up, and if you hover over that, you will see account locked by, and it'll show you the user that is in that request. If you go into update and it says it's been locked by a user, it's likely that that was locked after you got into that page. So sometimes you will not see the red symbol and you will see update, but it will be locked. And at that point, if you refresh your page, you will then see the lock symbol. Once the user leaves the screen or the session times out, the lock will be released. So our timeline for each of these new pieces of functionality, the Provider Negative Balance Report has been available since 5/24/2018. The Adjudicated Claims Listing Request, we are expecting that will be available for providers 6/18. The Communications Reviews and Requests is currently in the pilot stage for some providers, and then it will be opened up to all providers on 6/11/18. We will also have a follow-up question and answer on 6/26/2018 at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So if you go into these pieces of functionality and you are not able to figure out what you need to do and you have some questions, please call in at that time and we will be answering those questions. You can also submit questions to the DSS Online Portal email, which is dssonlineportal@state.sd.us. You will also find this PowerPoint and the updated user guide at our Medicaid portal webpage, which is dss.sd.gov/medicaid/portal.aspx. Thank you for joining.